Hello everyone and welcome back to the Blaise XPerience once again. You are joining me for episode 66 today, and I am your host Derreck. We are here to talk about Dead by Daylight today. This is actually our second Dead by Daylight podcast, and we are coming back for our monthly series. The first podcast we did was basically on the basics of Dead by Daylight. We kind of talked about a broad strokes of everything. Today's podcast is going to be more of a representation of what the normal monthly podcast is going to be. We're going to have some news elements in here of, what's going on in Dead by Daylight community, possibly some events that are going on, just anything that's going on for that month. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about a topic more in depth. Today's topic is going to be on survivors, and we're going to talk about tips for survivors. So basically ways that you can survive more as a survivor and things that you should be doing or possibly shouldn't be doing. So that's kind of today's topic, but before we get into that really quick, the next podcast will be on Saturday. It'll be a State of the K2 podcast. I don't have the topic announced yet, but there'll be some kind of topic on State of the K2. The next stream I'm going to do, I'm actually doing one today after this recording is done, but by the time you hear this, the stream's already going to be over, so the next stream that you could catch after hearing this would probably be on Sunday. I'm thinking I might do one. So that's the next stream you might see. And I do want to announce in the podcast as well that this podcast you're listening to right now is going to release on a Wednesday, or if something happens time-wise, it could release on a Thursday, but usually on a Wednesday. But the midweek podcasts that release on Wednesdays, I won't be having a lot of them come up. And that is because I'm prepping for the 1-year anniversary of the podcast, as well as trying to improve things. I'm trying to improve streaming. I'm trying to improve the podcast and some of my skills overall for career-wise. So essentially what this means is the 1-year anniversary of the podcast is March 16th. So between now and March 16th, you're not going to hear a ton of Wednesday podcasts. It'll probably be this one and then maybe one or two other ones in that time span. So it's not going to be a ton of them, but there will be some. And the reason for that is I'm just prepping for the 1-year anniversary of the podcast, and then basically when we hit the 1 year, we'll hit the ground running and we'll have more regular Wednesday podcasts. The State of the K podcast on Saturday will always stay, so there will always be at least 4 every month, and depending on what I can do for Wednesday podcasts, more than that. So you'll have this podcast today, and then in March there'll be another Dead by Daylight podcast at some point, so whether it's beginning of the month or this end of the month, we'll announce that afterwards. And then possibly one other one in between. I might do a podcast on Crackdown 3 is probably the next game I'm going to talk about on Wednesday. But that's not obviously released yet, so I have to wait for it to release first. But without further ado, we will get into today's episode. So I do have someone here with me. It is the same person that was here with me last time for the Dead by Daylight podcast. My fabulous co-host for this series. Please welcome to the podcast, the Mixer streamer himself, ACC. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thank you for having me again. Super excited to do this. This is great.
Yeah,
so
same here. I'm
yes.
ready. So
yes.
I think our first one went pretty well. I'm excited to do this one too. So
yes. So hopefully the audio is better for you all there that was listening. We don't know what was going on there with why it was lower volume, but if this encounters again this time, don't worry. The Blue Yeti's coming out the next segment.
Yes,
we're gonna have some high octane clear performance. So
I'm honestly not sure because I edited it and it sounded fine editing as well. So I guess when it processed, it came out lower. Like I don't really know. But
they're hating on Bose.
Yes.
It's okay. I'm getting out the Yeti. That's
exactly.
all right.
But I know we've both been playing some Dead by Daylight. So have you been having fun in the game lately?
Yeah, I'm having a blast. Obviously the Moonrise event is out. It's pretty much the Chinese New Year celebration they do yearly. So this is, I think, their third year doing like the Chinese New Year. I think it was 2 years ago when they did it. It was amazing because it had like triple blood points. Last year they did like an event where it was Vessel, somewhat similar to this. This is totally different though. They do mix it up. So it's been really fun getting bonus blood points with doing extra incentive objectives. So it's been really cool. I've been pretty hooked playing it. I think I was playing it last night. I started around 8 and I'm teaching a group how to play, and we were up until 5 a.m. So we were really hooked.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's a good session then.
Yeah, well, we definitely had a good session, yeah.
Yeah, I know I definitely have a lot more to learn. I mean, I think you still have over 900 hours plus on me right now, so I've probably got like, somewhere around like 50 to 60 hours in the game, I think, if I had to guess. So you still have over 900 hours more than me, so you definitely have more.
You're definitely reaching to the top right there. You're getting closer, I'll tell you that.
Yes.
But every hour you improve in this game, so it's really fun.
Definitely.
Really. Yes.
But obviously we're here to talk about Survivors today. That's going to be a little bit later in the podcast, so we're going to talk about some Survivor tips. Some of these tips I could definitely use myself, because I'm still pretty new, and I still make a lot of mistakes, cough, lockers, That's one of the mistakes I make a lot, but...
The patented locker move, he loves it.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll get into that later, though.
Let's look into the fun part. Yes.
But you did mention the Moonrise event, and that's kind of the biggest news that's going on with the community right now. This Moonrise event, when you're hearing this, it'll be on February 6th. So it basically lasts another week. It's going to be until February 13th that it lasts. So if you haven't heard about it yet until right now, then, good news. You still have a week to play it, and there's plenty of time to get in there and, get some of these cool cosmetics. But basically what this is, as ACC said, it's in celebration of the Chinese New Year. And this is the year of the Hog. And basically this has a couple in-game changes that add a little bit of a new element to the game, and it gives you some cosmetics if you participate in this event enough. So there's a new menu theme, which has new music and stuff like that. It's kind of a cool new musical sound to it. There's a new lunar vessel, which is something that's in the game. It's basically like a lantern that you can kind of grab and pick up. There's golden coins. This is basically the currency you use to get the new cosmetics. So each cosmetic takes 3 coins, so you have an opportunity to get 9 coins. There's a Chinese firecracker item, which is basically a firecracker that I believe stuns the killer. Is that correct, ACC? I think it stuns the killer.
Yeah, it's pretty much like, if some people are listening now, it's almost similar to a flashlight. You throw it down. Okay. Yeah, if he grabs you, puts you on his shoulder, someone comes by and just drops a firecracker, it blinds him, and for about a second or so. So yeah, it's pretty much similar.
So yeah, another thing they actually have is a new item, or technically an old item if you played the previous events, but there's the red envelope is back. Basically what this does is if you play the red envelope as offering, then it actually activates more lunar vessels in the map. So each map starts with 2, and then if you put envelopes in there, you can get up to, I think it said 7 when I read it, but that doesn't really make much sense to me, because if there's 2 and then each survivor uses 1 envelope, wouldn't that be 6? So maybe the killer has a chance to get 1 in there. Maybe that's how there's 7. But.
Yeah, they throw in the bonus there. Obviously, because once the killer does the hook, he'll have more of an opportunity to run to the vessels and break them.
Okay, gotcha. So that's why there's possibly a 7 in. It'd probably be pretty rare to have 7 in there, but I guess it's possible. So, but there's the lunar hook, which honestly I couldn't find out much about this. I don't know if you know much about the lunar hook, but I guess it's like a different hook.
Yeah, it's a It's pretty much a decorated hook.
Okay,
so you're looking
like new about it?
No, it's got like a Chinese confetti with, obviously fireworks ready to blow off once the killer hooks you, as well as, the generators are decorated. So if you complete a generator, the fireworks go off and everything. Yeah, in celebration.
Yeah, and those generators, when I first saw them, they definitely threw me off. I remember I failed a skill check, so I looked at the generator like, wait, what's this little thing at the generator? So I failed the skill check.
Yeah, you thought you failed at this. Now, that happened to me too, because I didn't expect the fireworks to happen.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa, what happened?
And then you actually failed, yeah.
Yeah. We're all right.
So it's funny because you think you failed, you didn't fail, but then it actually caused you to fail.
Yes, pretty much the case. So if you're new to it and you get startled, don't worry.
Yeah,
it's actually a good thing. Yeah.
It's kind of funny though, but that's sort of what the in-game changes are. I did mention new skins, so there's 3 new skins. There's 2 survivor skins. One is for Ace Visconti, one is for Feng Min. Basically, Ace has like a red, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a red fluorescent or glowy suit. And then Feng Min, she has like a full-length red dress. That's actually pretty cool cosmetic. the Huntress, in my opinion, is probably the best one. I'm not sure if you agree, ACC, but the Huntress is like a really cool pig mask and decorations, and it's hard for me to describe it, but the Huntress one looks amazing to me.
I definitely went after that axe that she has. That thing looks awesome. I love the attire that the Huntress has as well. And yeah, the boar mask, which is cool, that I haven't got yet. So the next one I'll be getting is the Huntress, because I went all Fang Min. I got her face mask, her face cosmetic, and her whole dress. Now I'm going after the suit of the Huntress and the boar mask. I think, yeah, the Huntress definitely is the coolest looking out of all of them.
And now, see, the way you're talking, it has me potentially confused on how this works, because I thought it was supposed to be 3 golden coins per cosmetic. Is that basically 1 coin per item, and that's how you get the whole set?
That's right. So you get 9 coins you will earn total because of the 3 characters. So you'll have, to pretty much you're getting their bottom half, their top, and then their mask, their face. So that's pretty much it. It's 1 each you can purchase, and then boom.
And that's nice, at least, because that makes it so you don't actually waste coins. So, like, say you only got 5 coins, you could at least get 2 cosmetics out of somebody else instead of all 3. So you at least don't waste your coins. That's nice.
Exactly. You go for what exactly you want. So for me, I went for Fang Min right away. I went for the dress, and then I wanted that Huntress axe. Make sure just in case I don't get to 6, and that's what I ended up doing. So I ended up getting her dress, and then the 3rd coin, I got the axe, and then went back to her getting her full face cosmetic. Yeah, so you really get to choose what you want to do.
Well, for me, I've been an underachiever so far, so I still only have 1 coin, but I'll have to keep playing and I'll get some more coins.
You will definitely get there. We got to get some games in too, for sure.
Yes, definitely. Maybe after the podcast we can get a couple in. So
I think it's a good idea. I'm already excited. Let's do this.
The problem for me in getting coins is I have yet to get a vessel and escape with a vessel, and that's how you get the most points. And we'll kind of explain how that goes, because we did talk about 9 coins. Basically, the first coin costs 100 points, and then every coin after that costs an extra 100. So coin number 2 costs 200, coin number 3 costs 300. So essentially, if you wanted all 9 coins, it's going to cost you, I think 4,500 was the number. So basically, you have to really ramp up there. So you're probably going to get, most people will probably get enough for 3 coins to get a full set, but I would say not as many people are going to get 2 sets, and then probably only the most hardcore of players will get all 3 sets.
Yeah, definitely the hardcores will get all 3 sets, depending if they like it, the cosmetics too. Like, I've been playing it pretty hard. I've got, I'm going for my 5th coin, so I definitely don't see me going past 6. It is a grinder. You're gonna have to be playing it quite a bit.
Yes, I mean, if you wanted all 3 sets, especially with only a week left, I mean, you're probably gonna have to play this almost 24/7 for the rest of the week. So
yeah, you're gonna have to go hard. Like last night, I went pretty hard. We were having a lot of fun, but it is a grind. With the pulling the vessel, obviously you get the bonus points. If you actually run out with that vessel, you're looking at, and you've done a couple gens, you're looking at a good possible 40 to 45 points, which is really good. So you can have a really good run. If you actually take the vessel, and hold on to it for a long time and don't necessarily escape, you actually get more points as well the longer you're holding on to it. So that's cool. You know what I mean?
Interesting. I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah. So it's doing things, especially when you put on the bonus envelope. So you're going to be able to grab, if you see one, grab it right away. And, the longer you have it, the more points you're gaining. So, yeah, they definitely spread it out there, which is good.
Yeah, kind of what we're describing here is basically there's objectives for the survivors and killers to get points. And basically for the survivors, you get 4 points for each generator you do. And then you get 25 points for each lunar vessel you take and escape the trial with. So that's where the big points are, is if you take a vessel and escape, then that's 25 points, which I believe still applies to use the hatch, correct? So it's still hatch or regular gates?
That's correct.
Okay, I thought
exactly,
so.
Yeah.
And then the killer, you get 2 points for each hook you do, and then 3 points for destroying a lunar vessel after hooking a survivor. So basically how this is supposed to work is if you hook a survivor that had a vessel on them, the vessel respawns at its original location, and then for a short amount of time, those vessels will be allowed to be destroyed. So if you as the killer, if you go there and interact with that vessel, you can destroy it, and then you get 3 points for that. So I don't know if you agree with me, but in my opinion, it seems like this is way skewed towards the survivors, and the killers almost have no chance to get points.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was actually gonna bring up the topic. Believe it or not, actually, no. The reason why they did it that way is because killers will rack up a ton of points. I think it's favored killers at this point. Because they'll hit the more you hook, you end up with almost 50 to 60, on a good run, Lunars. So they're just smoking by, these points. So they definitely have the advantage, on getting points, as opposed to if you do not grab the vessel and escape, you're going based on gen work. So you could probably, Survivor can end up leaving the game with only 4 vessel points, right? So while a killer is walking away with at least 30 to 40 minimum.
If the killer's not actually destroying those vessels, though, they can only get points from hooks, and you have 4 survivors, obviously.
Right.
3 hooks apiece, so you're looking at, 12 hooks, basically 24 points. So isn't their maximum 24 points if they're not actually destroying vessels?
Well, if they're not destroying vessels, we'll keep in mind that if someone's wearing a vessel and they hook them, that's also bonus points. But keep in mind,
see that I didn't know.
Yeah, but look at that. In a worst case scenario, say they were to just get 24 points, that's still more than a survivor would if we did like 4 or 2 gens. Right? 2 gens is going to get you 8, 4 is going to get you 12, or sorry, not 12, 16. You know what I mean? They're still making more than we would on a bad run without running out with that lantern.
True. So basically, if a survivor gets 1 gen, that's 4 points, and then a killer, all they have to do to get 4 points is just hook 2 survivors, and they have 4 points right there. So.
Yeah, they're laughing. Yeah, so they're laughing.
Which I think I'm not the greatest killer. I've only played like maybe 20 games or less as killer, and even for me, I think I've only had 1 game where I hooked less than 2 people. Like there's 1 game I just got smoked and I hooked like 1 person, but besides that, I hooked 2 or more. So.
Right. Yeah, it's
probably pretty rare that you don't hook at least 2 people.
Yeah, it is. And that's the average. They have it where they try to balance a DVD, to the point where the average, and they did that study where they've seen the average players that get out and survive, right? It's a halfway, so it's a 2-2. 2 will escape, 2 will die.
I guess it does just seem skewed towards the survivors at first look, though, because of the 25-point bonus for escaping. So
yes.
I kind of feel like that the killer should have some kind of bonus, like killer gets 15-point bonus for killing all survivors or something.
Yeah. Again, though, they're racking up on average, if on a worst case scenario, about 30 to 40 points right away. So they're making what we're fighting to get, right? As opposed to, and I think it was setting up for survivors, especially new survivors, learning the game, because if they're not, usually when you're starting the game, killer's going to have the advantage on you. Even when you're in the higher ranks, like I'm rank 1 now, so if we're going to take on killers that are in that rank level, they are vicious and brutal. So I think they're definitely giving us the majority of the points just because killers definitely have an advantage at this point.
No, I can see that,
and it contradicts things too. It makes the team. Depending if you're playing with randoms or you're playing with the team. If you're playing with randoms, you're in a situation too because they're going for the points. So are they going to unhook you when you get hooked? Or are they going to continue working on that generator because they're like, well, I'm going to get 4 points here. Unhooking him gets me just blood points. I want to get my cosmetic points, right?
True.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. So
yeah. It really throws stuff up in the air and questions who's going to help you and who ain't. Yeah.
Of course, if you're surviving with, a group of friends, though, it's probably, you split it around each other. So it's probably not that bad if you're not playing with randoms, but if you are playing with randoms, it can be bad.
It can be. What I've noticed too, playing with the randoms, last night I ran into only 1 good random. So 1 good teammate when I was helping out the other 2. And what a game it was that we all helped each other out. We all benefited. We left that game all making the high 20,000s in terms of blood points, almost 30. So,
and not to digress too much, but I will mention on the podcast we actually had a scenario last week where you were almost like a random because Xbox had a lot of issues that day, and basically it made it so you couldn't join our party, so we couldn't really talk to you except through your stream. So it was interesting.
That was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. That was an absolute nightmare. And all I had to do was gauge to see who was hurt and who wasn't, and I would just run and try and unhook them and then, bounce. And I was trying to be like, okay, I'm aware. Hopefully they know this.
Yeah.
I'm well aware.
So basically what would happen is I had the job of, going into your stream, trying to type to you like, hey, this person's hooked. Hey, this person needs help.
The worst. I know. I was like, oh my God.
I remember like one or two times I actually went into your stream to try and tell you like, hey, it's this killer. And by trying to type that to you, I actually got whacked. So.
And you got whacked for doing it. Yeah, it was a rough one. Like I wouldn't get notifications that I would get invites. They weren't getting notifications that I was giving them invites. I tried to join their game, and then the join game would be scratched off, so it was blanked out, faded out. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is okay.
Yeah, so that's Xbox Live. Basically once or twice a month without fail, it has major issues. Once or twice a month without fail,
which has been really weird because it's been abnormal to kind of see that they've been having a lot of issues each month lately. Hopefully they're figuring it all out. Maybe they're working on some things, but it's been quite different, to say the least.
Which oddly enough, I've noticed that the past 2 or 3 months, it's always on the 13th. There's issues, so. I don't know if that's like Dead by Daylight related because that's when the rank reset happens too. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So like.
You're right. You were saying that. Yes.
Yeah. Every last 2 or 3 months, it's been the 13th. Right. It's been one of the 2 days that it messes up. So the 13th of February, watch out. There's probably going to be some Xbox Live issues.
Definitely looks like it. I'll tell you that.
Unless they finally fixed it. Maybe they fixed it, but.
Well, hopefully we get no more issues like that with the Xbox Live stuff. You're losing your friends list. It's offline. You know what I mean? And
yeah, this was a worse one because this issue, we won't get too much into it, but basically it was to the point where I had like a black screen and I couldn't actually interact with my Xbox at all. So like, even if I wanted to watch a movie offline, I couldn't even do that. I couldn't interact with my Xbox or anything.
It's so weird. Since that's happened, I haven't had a smooth stream. Now it's forced me to get a PC, which is a good thing because now. Right. I don't have to deal with duplicate pings. That's what I've been getting ever since. The Xbox cannot respond properly ever since they've been doing these fixes, so it's been super weird. But I'm happy I'm getting a PC, so I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Exactly, but we should probably stop digressing a little bit. People don't want to hear about our trials and tribulations too much.
Dead by Live Light. Yes, Dead by Xbox Live Light. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Sorry, guys.
So just watch out for the Xbox Live, guys.
It's coming to get you.
I love Xbox, but dang, once or twice a month, every month, it's getting a little bit old now, so hopefully they fix it.
Hopefully, yeah, definitely. It's definitely different, because it's rare to go to these issues, but...
Yeah, like didn't used to be the norm, but lately, the last couple of months has been the norm, so... We'll see.
Super weird.
But, with the Moonrise event, we pretty much covered it all. Like we said earlier, 2 lunar vessels start in the trial. And we already explained how you get the coins and things like that. You can get up to 7 additional vessels, or up to 7 vessels total, if all 5 players in the game actually use the red envelope. So that's the way you can get extras. But basically, that's the Moonrise event. It's a pretty cool event, and it's fairly simple to understand. Just by playing the game, even if you don't understand all the mechanics of the event, just by playing the game, you'll still get points. So you can just play the game normally, play as a survivor, play as a killer normally. You'll still get points, and you can still possibly get cosmetics.
Yep, totally. So, if you guys are just getting into the game, get in there, have some fun, because it is really fun. I like the new added stuff, the added objectives.
Absolutely.
I think they're paving the way for, again, a new end game, and we'll get into that, I guess, later podcast, but good things are coming.
Definitely. And I will say, too, that I did look back at some of the previous events. I wasn't, around for the full, this game, but in the previous events, I looked at the cosmetics, and honestly, in my opinion, I think the cosmetics for this event are probably the best ones they've had yet, so, could just be my opinion, based on what I've seen, but I looked at the cosmetics that they've had previously, and I definitely like these cosmetics better, so.
They definitely stepped up the game with these. They look great. They look cool. They look like you actually really want to go for them.
Especially that Huntress. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
super
she
impressed
killed
by
it.
that Huntress. That
Yeah,
Huntress outfit,
they
just like,
killed it.
wow. I can't believe that outfit.
Yeah, no, they've killed it with that. It's just really good. Really good, because the last time they did something with Huntress in terms of cosmetics, it was just plain. You know, nothing to care about. This one, they're like, yeah, we're going all out, so it's really cool.
Right, and even the Fang Min looks really good too. I mean, the only one I'm kind of like not impressed with that much is the Ace. The Ace is like, it's, you know, whatever. But
hence why I said I'll probably go as far as 6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm just like, I don't care for the Ace one. Yeah.
It's basically like a glorified, you know, red tracksuit. I mean, like it looks better than that, but like it's pretty much, you know, put a red tracksuit on him and then like, you know, style up the tracksuit a little bit.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. They made him. They made an Italian, pretty much Oriental, right? It's like they revamped Ace, the character. I think they should have did it with Jake if they were gonna do it, because Jake is an Asian descent, so it would work out better. But it was just I don't know where they got that idea.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that either, because it's like the Chinese New Year event. So Fang Min, okay, that makes sense. The pig, or not the pig, but it's the year of the year of the pig. So you know, using the Huntress for that makes sense, because you can have like the pig mask and stuff like that. So that makes sense. But the Ace is like, Ace, why? Like
the Italian gambler? What about Jake Park? You know, it would have made sense. But yeah, I guess not. So they just threw it out there.
Or you would think, like, instead of that altogether, maybe just have, you know, a spirit cosmetic. I mean, I know they just had a spirit cosmetic, but like that would make more sense too, you know, based on her backstory. So
very true. But
so
yeah, again, like you said, they just launched her new cosmetics, and I know they're gonna do a lot more cosmetics. So, but yeah, I know.
But I mean, they could have changed that all up by just timing her launch differently. Like they could have withheld her cosmetics until after this event, or they could have had it, you know, a couple months beforehand. So they could have changed it up to where like her new cosmetics that we just got recently, they could have withheld those to like say March or April, and you know had the new lunar cosmetics instead.
Yeah, I agree. Whatever they were thinking, and sure, they went with it. Yeah.
I mean, people are still gonna have fun, and honestly, only the most hardcore people are gonna get past 6 coins anyways. So it's probably not gonna matter too much. You know, most people will probably pick up the Huntress, they'll pick up Fang Min, and they'll stop.
Yeah, pretty much, man. So I don't know. You're winning when you get 6. If you like to get it all, then keep grinding.
Which I don't think I'll get 6. I'm gonna shoot for like maybe 4 at least or something. Right. Basically, I'm hoping to get the Huntress full set and then Fang Min's dress. That's what I'm hoping for. So I don't know if that's 4 or 5 points, but
the Fang Min, yeah. So it's 3 and 6. So you need 6 if you want their both their full stuff. But if you're going Huntress first, yeah, 3. Get that.
Well, I'm talking about just Fang's dress though. Yeah. So that'd be 2 coins for just the dress.
2 coins.
So I wouldn't need.
Yeah, you won't need the head.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I didn't want to get the head originally too, but then I looked at it. I was like, that's actually pretty cool. But
yeah, so I guess I'm shooting for 5. Then if I get the 6 and I get the Fang Min head, great. If I don't, then I'm not too worried about it. But
you'll get those. You'll get the first 3 pretty fast, pretty decently.
Right. Yeah. We'll have to work on that today.
Absolutely.
But moving on, we do have something a little bit extra for news. This is something that they apparently had in the past. They're bringing it back now. So in the Dead by Daylight official Discord, there's something called the Dead by Daylight School that they do. And basically what this is, they have teachers that kind of tutor people on how to play the game. So there's classes that you kind of sign up for, and the survivor classes are 45 minutes each. The killer classes are 30 minutes each. And basically they use the Kill Your Friends feature, I believe, to kind of teach people how to do different things and kind of help them improve. So you would sign up for these classes by going to the Discord, using the links provided, and you can find out more about the teachers involved, things like that. Unfortunately, which I just found out for myself, it's not available for Xbox right now. They have a lot of PC availability, and it looks like they have a couple of people that can do it on PS4, but there's no one that does it on Xbox just yet, so I guess you have to kind of wait for a teacher to be available for that, so hopefully they get an Xbox teacher at some point. But basically what this involves is there's a beginner class, an intermediate class, and an advanced class for both survivors and killers. So we won't spend a ton of time on this, but I'll just kind of read through really quickly the list of things that you're going to be learning. And, ACC can kind of comment on whether he thinks that's like, good stuff to teach in a class or not. But the Survivor Beginner class, this includes identifying common tile sets, discussion on meta perks, discussion on common values or times, like times it takes to use self-care, times it takes to complete a generator, time it takes to sacrifice each state on a hook. So basically it's discussion on kind of like common values and times that you should know to start the game. The intermediate section, this is basic pallet looping, like bluffing by tossing down pallets when killers respect pallets, attempting to use only one pallet and two pallet before moving on to the next tile, the difference between safe and unsafe pallets, running maze tiles optimally, like running the jungle gym and T-wall setups in directions that give pre-fast vaults over slow mid-vaults, and flashlights. And then the advanced section for survivors is advanced pallet looping techniques, like combining pallet loops with maze shack tile windows, when to run the long loop versus when to run the short loop, when to take hits to save important pallets, and methods for killing bloodlust. So I don't know if you have any comments on that stuff, ACC, but it sounds like really good stuff that it's important to learn. So I'm glad they're doing something like this.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I wish we had it probably when we first started, because when DVD was launched, they kind of just threw you in the mist. You didn't have a tutorial, didn't have help, didn't have schools. So it's kind of cool that they're gonna kind of just give you tips on what's best win at certain situations and try to help you out with it. Because there is, believe it or not, it's a really chillax game. It can be at a point, but there's a lot of things you need to learn. Strategy. It's all mind games too, right? So
definitely.
they're definitely trying to help you with the basics for sure. It seems.
Yeah, and if they ever come out for Xbox class, I'm definitely gonna sign up for the beginner survivor one, and test that out, because there's some stuff in that class I would probably know, like especially the meta perks. I pretty much know what the meta perks are already. I mean, they might talk about some that I don't know as well, but for the most part, I know the meta perks, and I guess I don't know the specific times that it takes for like self-care, generator, things like that, but I have a general idea in my head on how long it's going to take me. The main thing I would want to know from beginner class is identifying common tile sets, because I don't really know anything about that right now. So it would be nice for me to figure out, like, oh, this is how you tell this is like this tile. This is how you tell it's this tile. So that would be nice for me to know personally. And then, intermediate and advanced, I mean, I probably know almost nothing of those. Like, one of the main things I want to learn from intermediate, which probably sounds stupid for people that are experienced in the game, but I still don't really understand what is the difference between a safe and unsafe pallet. So I don't know if you ACC, but
And a safe and unsafe pallet. Well, I think if I have to look at it and think about it, if the only time I think there's an unsafe pallet is when there's when you're stuck in a situation where there's none around you after that pallet, and then you're in a place where there's a bunch of ruin where you're in a tight situation. So pretty much where you can't loop back and forth because the killer will just take you out on the other side quickly, as opposed to where you have things around or can have you run around and kind of loop and try to see what your next play is. Yeah. So, but I wouldn't really know that in particular.
It probably has something to do with that, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only time I can actually see that being unsafe. Right.
But moving on to killers, though, they have 3 classes for killers as well. For beginner killers, they talk about identifying common tile sets, discussion on meta perks, discussion on common values or times, like the times it takes for self-care, completing generators, sacrificing hook states, and discussion on how best to find survivors. So basically it's the same exact thing as the survivor class, except they add on how to best find survivors. But I think the difference is they include all the same stuff because they talk about it from the killer's perspective. So, because it's the same stuff doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the same exact class, because when you take the survivor class, you're probably learning from the survivor perspective, okay, this is how it is from my perspective. But when you take it from the killer class, you're learning, okay, this is how it is from the killer's perspective. So it's probably a totally different perspective of the class. The intermediate class, this includes countering basic pallet looping, running maze tiles optimally, chasing survivors in jungle gym or T-wall setups that force mid or slow vaults over fast vaults, reasons why to disengage a good player, explanation on red stain from survivor's point of view and how to take advantage of line of sight, moonwalking, killer shack tactics, when to break pallets during engagement counter flashlights, and that's kind of the intermediate. And the advanced, they include lunge techniques, pallet mind games, when to slug or not slug for pressure. So they definitely have a lot of stuff included here, and honestly, if you're someone that's on PC or PS4, I would probably recommend taking all 6 of these classes, because what do you have to lose? I mean, you're spending 45 minutes or half an hour, and you're going to gain something out of it. Like, even if you know like 5 of these things, but you don't know the 6th one, you're still going to learn that 6th thing. So, anyone that is available to take these classes, I would definitely recommend doing them. Unfortunately for me, I can't yet because I don't have an Xbox, but hopefully I'll do that soon. But, if you are someone that plays on PC or something, then I definitely recommend checking these classes out. I mean, what do you have to lose? I mean, you're spending like a half hour for the killer classes. In that half hour, you're going to learn something.
Very true. Like, you're looking at a scenario where this game, when you're in, like, people that are going to do these classes, they're full into this game. Like, remember we were talking about before, with this game, you're either all in or you're all out. Like, you either love it or you just say, yes, it's not for me. And definitely, if you're new at the game and there's an opportunity for you to kind of learn more basics that you need to learn more and you don't have your friends on or whatnot, this is where to go. Like, they'll just give you the hands-on just of what you could do and what not to do. Pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And, kind of like you said, I mean, these teachers are going to be people that, play the game like nonstop probably, and they know, everything about the game. Right. So they're going to be people that can really help you out. And even if you're a casual player, it's still good to take these classes. Like, say you're a casual player, it's still good to take, the advanced class at some point, because in your casual games, you're going to know more what to do. So when you're playing with your friends, you can be like, oh, look what I can do. I can do this 360 around this guy.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you would know. No, it's true. It's it.
And then your friends are going to be like, whoa, how did you do that? I'd be like, I'm just that good.
Right.
So you can kind of show off to your friends, too. So that's always fun.
Always. Especially on that game, for sure. Oh, man.
Definitely. So, definitely jump in the Discord if you guys have Discord and check out this section. I think it's actually labeled as Dead by Daylight classes. It's labeled Dead by Daylight School, so DBD School. So if you look in the announcement section, you can find that and check that out. It's definitely very cool. And, if it comes up with the Xbox at some point, then we will announce that on the podcast, but right now there's no Xbox available for it. But that being said, unless you have something else, ACC, that's pretty much the news that's going on in the community right now. I don't know of any, other big news that's out right now, because the Moonrise event is basically the main focus right now.
That's the main focus. There is, obviously, March is around the corner. So that comes to about the 3-month mark where there will be a new killer survivor, and pretty much a new chapter into the game. So there's already teases about a March 27th date where we will have a launch of either a new trailer or the killer is released that time. So if it's the 27th, that means a week prior or a few days prior, we're going to get a really epic trailer that teases us on who the next killer may be in Survivor, plus new map. So every 3 months they generate something new. So that excitement for next month is going to be something good.
So maybe we'll have to hold off on our third podcast until later in March.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely hear news after the lunar event. I think early March there's going to be a lot more whispers on what's going to happen. We might even get the trailer sooner than we think. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Or maybe if the news comes out early enough, we can do it before it drops, and people will know before the killer drops. What they're looking
even
at.
A bonus segment, if anything, right?
Yeah.
Once we hear the news, we jump on it. Yeah, it's going to definitely be a great topic.
Yeah, because if anyone was wondering, I mean, the reason why we're doing this podcast this early in the month is because we wanted to have the podcast out when the Moonrise event was going on, because it doesn't really make as much sense to talk about the Moonrise event after it already ended. We wanted to at least, have the podcast come out and give people a chance to play the Moonrise if they haven't heard about it yet. So that's kind of why we did this early.
Absolutely. And it just gives you a heads up and a rundown, just in case you're getting in there and you're trying it out. You get the gist of what's going on and what you're there to look forward to. You know what I mean? So
definitely. But we can kind of get into our main topic, which is tips for survivors. So I don't know if you have a list on you. I have a list on me of some that I kind of jotted down. So we're going to kind of talk about just, some general tips. They're not like ranked or anything, but they're just general tips that you should know as a survivor.
Awesome.
So, the first one I have is actually one that I got from you, so I'll let you explain it more. But this one is don't start on gens right away. Can you kind of explain why?
Yeah, so when you're starting, I guess I'll throw in the tip during that tip, so we'll talk about that. when you're starting the game, I think the
Go
first thing
for
you
it.
want to do is know your surrounding. But when you're knowing your surrounding, quickly run to cover. Because you don't know if the killer is that close to you when he spawns. So you want to make sure that you're in cover, you know your surroundings, and that leads to why we don't do a gen right away. You want to know, because what the killer's doing now, he can see the aura of the generator. So he's going to patrol and walk around and see who's done any. A lot of the mistakes that are made are people jumping on it right away, which is not a bad thing, but really not a good thing. Depending on how many people are doing it. Especially if you're a team. If you're a team, you should have something organized with who is who. But here is the case. If you don't, the killer will patrol. He'll pass by. You're like, okay, good. He's passed by this generator, meaning there's no action. He's going to have to do a loop around. That gives you time now to run onto that generator. If you jump on it early and he's making that patrol, you're going to definitely be in a whole heap of trouble.
Yeah, and as someone that's newer, that's something I didn't really think about at first, but after you explained it, it makes so much sense, because basically if the killer, their job is to find the survivors, obviously. So when they first start the game, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to the nearest generator, look and see if there's somebody there. Okay, no one's there. Go to the next generator. Okay, no one's there. So they're going to patrol generators until they find somebody. So if you're a survivor, if you're thinking about it from their perspective, then the generator that you're closest to, if you wait until the killer passes by that, then if the killer's already passed by that, the killer thinks, okay, there's no one here, let me go to the next one. So the killer thinks there's no one there, so as soon as the killer goes away, you can jump on that generator, and they're not going to be back for a long time after that. So that's actually cool.
Right, they'll actually probably find someone already on that gen or someone running around, so it just buys you a ton of time, right, as opposed to being that person being chased and giving the others that ton of time.
Yes, I'm definitely used to being chased. So.
Well, that's why I always teach that first with newer players, because I think it's so important that you get that mentality now, so you start to learn and get a comfort zone. Number one, you want to learn the skill checks, right? So you need that time. So I think it's just clutch to be patient, hang tight, get in there, get your grips in, because over time, as you're playing it more and more, you're going to be comfortable. So you're going to be comfortable where you say, okay, you know what? I've played this long enough now. I'm comfortable. I'll jump on the gen right away, because you know your surroundings. Right. But if you don't, hold back, hang on, see what happens.
Yeah, and I'm definitely someone that, it's better for me to hold back right now, because I don't know enough of my surroundings yet. I mean, that's the interesting thing with this game, too, is even though I've put in, probably like 50 hours or so, I still have so much to learn with the game. Like, this is a game that, no matter how much time you put in, you probably have more to learn. And that's what's cool about the game, actually.
That's my favorite part of the game. You're always learning how to get into a good chase, get in and out of a good chase, rather. So it's definitely a lot of learning.
And especially when they change perks, so they come up with new perks, or if there's new killers that enter the game, that totally changes the meta, and then you have to learn how to combat that killer. So there's always something new.
Especially, you're unlocking a perk, and a perk that has an ability, like we'll talk barbecue and chili right quick, that, when a killer hooks you, he's able to see you for 4 seconds to see where you are, right? You gotta learn what counters there are for them, which is hiding in a locker, but we'll get further into that down the road. It's exactly. Yeah, it's your favorite. Exactly. So one of those things where you need to know.
Right.
We definitely will. It's going to be great.
But the next tip we have is to use a diversion to get an unhook. So basically what this means is don't unhook when the killer is right there. And this is something that you called farming, which I guess a lot of people probably call it that. But I think there's a sense that some people probably do this on purpose, yes. But I think newer players definitely do this unintentionally, because their goal is like, oh, I want to save my friend. This person's on my team. Let me save them. Let me get them out the hook. And they don't really realize, okay, the killer's right here. You shouldn't do that, because the killer, all they're going to do is tunnel that person they just hooked. So there's probably a lot of people that don't understand that, and they do it unintentionally too.
Yes, it happens a lot, especially, of course, newer players. You're just in a chase. You're really just in a suspense of running. Your mind is not really focused. You're just trying to survive. But then you see someone that's hooked, and you're like, oh my gosh, let me save them, and then start running. That essentially is the worst case scenario, because you put yourself and the person that was just hooked in critical danger, right? So if you're running, you do the unhook and you hear that heartbeat and it's close, you're pretty much signing another hook to your rank. If not dying instantly, you're putting yourself in a second hook. So you definitely do not want to put yourself in a situation where you're around the survivor that's hooked, you're hearing a heartbeat, but yet you're going to go and unhook. You definitely don't want to do that. What you want to do is wait. See if that killer is a camper that sticks around patrolling the area, or the killer's like, okay, let me go on to the next bait. You know what I mean? You definitely want to be patient when you do that.
Yeah, and this kind of ties in with another tip I had too, was, if you haven't been hooked yet, then take one for the team, which this also applies to the unhooked too. Like, I notice what you do a lot to try and be a team player is, okay, this person's already been hooked twice, like, one more hook, they're dead. I haven't been hooked yet, so when I unhook this guy, I'll just kind of sit back and let the killer hit me to kind of distract them.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're getting in I do that a lot where I'm in a situation where, yes, someone's down to their last hook. And remember, we need each other. As survivors, you need to be together.
Right.
You need to work together. One less survivor severely decreases your chances of survival, depending especially how many generators you've done at this point. So if there's someone down with two, and all of a sudden I hook, and all of a sudden that heartbeat came out of nowhere, which happens because the killer gets out of a certain distance. He knows his range.
Or it's Myers.
Or Michael Myers, for instance, where you don't hear anything. You want to make sure that person's good. So what I would do is get that survivor to run, get some time, and then have the killer focus on me, and I'll take a hit and see if they don't care about that other one. They're just going to come for me. Which is usually the case. It's a 50-50, because sometimes, depending on the rank of the killer, they want to tunnel you. Meaning they want to get the kill points, end that person quickly, eliminate that person, so there's few of us left. So it all depends, right? But yeah, you definitely want to be aware of that.
But this is where some perks can kind of come into play and help you out too. Like, use borrowed time a lot, which I don't know if you want to explain that real quick, but borrowed time actually helps in those situations.
Yeah, borrowed time's a great time. I love it, especially endgame. What's great about it is that it gives you a certain amount of time, I believe it's 20 seconds, where you have time, an extra amount of, that's like a second life. So if I was to unhook my survivor, the killer has to be around. You actually need the heartbeat, because that activates borrowed time. So if he goes and, we've activated all generators, the escape gate's open, this will give him a chance to escape, meaning I'll unhook him, he'll hit him. Usually it'll be an instant down because you're in a dying state, but I've given him this borrowed time where it gives him a window of 20 seconds to try and escape and get away from the killer in order to survive, or at least drop into a dying state. After that 20 seconds, you'll go into a dying state, and then we can come in and heal them up. So it gives you a chance to kind of just get away from that killer, which is very, very good.
Definitely. And which goes without saying, too, a lot of these tips we're going to give are tips for, trying to be a team player and play the survivor role effectively, because you can technically play survivor as, a one-man show and just kind of, go for the hatch every time, not care about your teammates, but that's not really what we're trying to promote. We're trying to promote, playing as a team. So, playing as a team does mean that sometimes, okay, I haven't been hooked yet, let me take the hit and let me lure the killer away.
Right, exactly. You definitely need to do that. It's definitely a strategy. It's funny because we're talking about not unhooking someone when the killer's around, and here we're telling you there's a perk when that happens to actually give you extra time. Yeah.
Of course, there are situations though where you can, play as a team a little bit too much and get yourself in trouble. I remember a game we had last week where you were hooked in the basement, and basically we had the exits open. Our whole team was ready to escape. We all ended up going back to try and save you, and all four of us ended up dying because of it. So.
Yes, and it was funny because that situation, everyone's hesitant and scrambling, not knowing what they should do at that moment. And I'll give you a perfect scenario of how last night it was almost a similar situation, because I'm teaching two people. So I was pretty much being chased the whole game, and we managed to get all gens done. This killer could not get me. Guess what? Gets me in the end there, where I got tied up in a corner, and that was it. So grabs me, puts me in a hook. We had a rando and my two survivors in training. So they were like, what do you want us to do, AC? What do you want us to do? And I'm like, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to bring your booties over here. Because what we're going to do is I'm being camped. So the killer's staying right there. He's like, you know what? You've given me hell this whole game. You're dying. So I said, this is what we're
Right.
going to do. And the team came together. Even the rando came, which we had no audio contact, but the rando got the just. I'm going to distract this killer while the other two, one will distract on the other corner. So we had the pretty much alpha on this killer, where one was on one side, the other was on the other. And this killer was like, oh, I want him, but I don't know. I want him dead. And and then the third would come in, unhook me. I looped over the window. Boom. We all ended up surviving that because we ended up working together. There was no hesitation. A lot of times when people are in that situation, they're scrambling and everyone's talking, but the talking is not really getting a resolve. There's no solution with the talk. It's more a scramble. So yes, you end up getting yourself killed in a situation if you can't communicate. But if you can, there's a chance. But if you're in a basement with a Leatherface, that's a tough one. that's a tough one.
Yeah. And see, that's kind of what happened with us too. I mean, we had those party issues going on. So, on our team of 4 players, we're all Survivor friends, but you're the most knowledgeable by far of the 4 of us, and you were the one person that couldn't talk to us. So we're all trying to think like, well, we should go save him, but how are we gonna do this?
That was a tough one.
I was one hook away from dying. Tandis was one hook away from dying, and he didn't even know that, so that made a problem because, he thought like, oh, I could go save him, but he didn't realize he was one hook away. And then we had Zombie, who was with us as well. I think he had 2 hooks left, but basically Tandis went to save you first. He didn't realize he was one hook away, so he got, knocked on the ground and taken away, and I was kind of waiting by the exit because I'm like, well, I'm one hook away, so I'll kind of like stay here just for a second to see what I need to do. I don't know.
Exactly.
So, and then, when Tandis died, I'm like, oh, shoot, well, I have to go help out too. So I went to help out. The zombie got taken down, and then it was basically me trying to save you, and I went to try and save you. I got you out the hook, and I got knocked down, and then you got knocked down.
Exactly. I think a perfect example of that is exactly without communication, look what happens, right? Even with one, it severs all. So, yes, communication is definitely key if you're bringing in a team together.
Yeah, so basically that killer must have been super happy. We dominated all game. We had all the gens done. We had all the exits open. And he still killed all 4 of us, so he must have been super happy.
Oh yeah, he was having. I don't think he was expecting that, but that's the thing about that game.
No,
you never know what's going to happen in that end game. Like you really don't. And that was a great example of how you're dominating the whole game, and all of a sudden, one mistake, one gets taken out, the other. It's like Noah, right? When no one escapes death, the one hits. Yeah, so.
No, that killer's probably thinking, like, how did this happen? I should not be winning this game, but I'll take it, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's fun, though. That's what I like. That's what I like about the game is, like, you have situations like that, like, I can't believe this is happening, but somehow it happens.
Pretty much. Exactly. You just never know what you're going to get, but it's fun either way.
But back to some tips, though. Another cool tip is to make sure the final 3 gens are spread out, and this is a tip that I'm getting better with. Early on, I didn't really do this at all. I think a lot of players that are newer and, just starting out, they don't really focus on this at all, but now I'm getting a little bit more knowledgeable. I'm trying to make sure that the gens aren't close together, because basically what this tip means is when you get your gens down, you have 7 gens at the map to start. You have to do 5 of them. So when you get 4 gens done, there's only 3 generators left. And if all 3 of those generators are very close together, then basically the killer can easily patrol them, and it's really hard to get them done. So what you want to try and do is you want to try and spread them out as much as possible and have 1 generator at one end of the map, 1 at the other end of the map, and that way the killer has to go back and forth to both ends of the map in order to actually patrol the generators.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest problems you get yourself into as a survivor, where you find yourself in you think is easy street, where you have, say, 3 gens somewhat out of views range. You see it in distance. And you're like, okay, I'm going to go to this one, it's been safe here. But know that if you've done 2 already that were close by on one side of the map, you're in a pickle already. Meaning, because you see that 3rd one, you think immediately, well, he's not over here. Let me do this one. The moment you do that, you put yourself in a definitely difficult situation. Because you're looking at, with 1 gen left, 3 gens remain. They're all together. So the killer can just ping pong within seconds to them. A lot of survivors find themselves in that situation because they're thinking either A, is if you're new, you don't know. You're doing it, you feel safe. Or B, the others that are experienced, they're just lazy and they want the points. You know what I mean? Survival of the fittest and the wisest. And I think that, again, you want to spread it out. You do one gen. Sure, if you see a gen around the way, you can, or go back to it and save it for later. Find another one. Even if the killer's around, hang tight, find cover, and then when he passes, go on forward. Because again, if you lay yourself out there, you lay all your cards out in one basket and just do that one side, the game's over. Unless this killer is one of the worst killers you've ever played. Or ever played.
Or unless you have a really good team, because if there's three close together, you can kind of use diversions to get the killer away long enough to get the gens done, but it'd be pretty hard. You have to have a really good team.
It's definitely difficult. You definitely need someone to get his attention to come chase and then go all the way at the other end of the map. But usually when it comes to that situation, when there's gens in one area left, there's only probably two of you left most of the times. If not, the soon-to-be two of you left, because one's being chased, gets hit, gets hooked, and immediately...
But if you're in that situation with 4 players left, you can probably still do it, though.
Yeah, you can definitely do it, but it depends. A smart killer usually knows the just. So a smart killer will be, I got 4 of them left. There's a gen left. 3 of these gens are close together. All he has to do is patrol back and forth. Boom, 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 and give you a tough time. Good thing is, if you organize properly, you go to the ones that are farthest away. So you don't go to the middle one. You go to the one that's on the one side, on the other side, even though they're close, and start ping-ponging. So he'll go one side, kick the gen, look for you. The other's on the other one, kick the gen, he'll come look for you. As long as you do that ping-pong effect, you can.
Yeah, because if the killer's smart, they're going to try and go away from the gens as little as possible because they know that you have to get those done. Yes. So if they're smart, they're not going to get engaged in a chase that takes them too far away.
And they know better. But the other ones, if they're just hungry for a kill, then yes, it opens the door for you. Definitely, if you get up to the higher ranks, you're
kind of like your situation. If you make them mad enough, they might go for you.
Exactly. So exactly. So the higher ranks, they'll know right away. I'm alpha. You're nothing. So they'll stick around. You know what I mean? And they'll do it until either a survivor just quits the game, or just take me out, man. You know what I mean? So it's definitely, again, mind games play a factor.
But speaking of mind games, though, one thing you can actually do to kind of trick killers is to fail skill checks on purpose. This can be used as a tactic to lure the killer away. So, say ACC was getting chased at one end of the map, or he might have, lost the killer recently. I can, purposely fail a skill check on a generator or something. That alerts the killer there's a person over here. It might draw them away. So, with experienced players, it probably, I assume, doesn't work as much, but it can probably work fairly well with newer killers, I would think.
Yeah, it's depending on the situation. I do it frequently with the ones I'm training, just because I know if the killer's lost them or around the vicinity, or if they're in danger, I will blow a gen if it's in a dire situation, purposely, to create that alert, to see if the killer's be like, oh, let me go over here, he's on this. So they can buy time and have them healed, or my partner healed, whatever may be the case.
And especially in your situation, too, because you're a lot better getting chased than, newer players are, because you actually know what to do to chase. Like, for me, for example, if I'm getting chased, there's a 90% chance I'm getting hit. So.
Right, because again, you're learning the map, you're learning to get comfortable. Even after 60 hours, it will take time. It'll take quite a couple hundred hours where you're finally just like, okay, I'm comfortable. I know my surroundings. You know what I mean? To where you can be comfortable with the chase. But yeah, you're right. That's totally it.
And then I can figure out where every single locker is.
Yes. Yes. That's a good segue to get into for a counter for barbecue and chili, like we were talking about earlier, is if someone's down and you know that killer has barbecue and chili, and you'll know instantly he has barbecue and chili, because as soon as he hooks someone and you're on a gen and you're thinking, you're far away, and then like, what the heck? You hear a heartbeat right away. It's because he sees you. What you want to do to counter it, you jump in a locker. You jump in a locker as soon as you see someone downed. You go into that locker. You don't go into the locker right when he's about to hook. You go right when he's down, because it gives you time. Killer's like, oh, I don't see anyone, because they all jumped into a locker.
And since, we're kind of on the subject now, we've sort of been teasing it the whole podcast, my, affinity for lockers here. So one of the tips we have is don't use lockers. And I put a couple question marks after that because I still don't really understand this tip. I mean, it seems like maybe, 75% of the time, if I'm getting like chased by a killer or something, or I'm injured, if I hop in a locker, it seems like 75% of the time, the killer doesn't check there. And they probably don't check there because they're thinking I'm not going to be stupid enough to jump in a locker, but I am stupid enough to do that, so they don't actually follow the meta there. They're not thinking one step ahead of that even. They're not thinking, okay, well, he's not going to be stupid enough to do this, but if he was stupid enough, maybe he's going to be here. So 75% of the time it has been working for me, but as you explained to me, at higher ranks, it won't work at all. So.
Yeah, they'll know I think you use it at the right timing. Like, for instance, if you're doing a generator and he's on the way and you run into a locker, he's kicking the gen. He knows, okay, someone was just here. Let me look around. Oh, there's a locker. He's going to instantly he's going to check that locker because he can't see your scratch marks. He can't see anything. So he's going to give it a shot and say, no way. Hello. Right? I think you've seen one of my streams where I was playing killer. Someone did that. And I was like, let me go to the locker because I don't see anything here. And sure enough, someone was in the locker. So that's one of the situations where you're put into. Now, if you're in the middle of a chase and, he's seeing your scratch marks and whatnot, and then he kind of loses you near the ruins for a little bit, and you see a locker and you jump in, big mistake. Because what's going to happen is he's lost you. He sees the scratch marks. It ends somewhere around the area where the locker is. He's going to grab you because he knows you're in that locker, or he's going to shoot for the stars and see if you're in there. Now, for instance, if you are in a situation where you hear a heartbeat, you don't know if he knows you're there and that whatnot. Let me jump in this locker. He runs around, does his patrol, he gets out. That's another idea. You know what I mean? Or you have to keep in mind another reason. If he's chasing someone, his mind is focused on taking that survivor out. You can jump in the locker if you're nearby because he doesn't know. He's unaware. He's focused on getting that survivor. So if you're going to, in the middle of a chase, to go in a locker, the only time you're going to do that is if he's about to hit you. It's a good counter, which I do. They're about to swing and hit me. I run into a locker right a quick. He misses. I jump out and I run again. You know what I mean? I'm not staying in there. Yeah, it's just.
I mean, it seems like it has worked for me sometimes, though. If I'm in a chase and I get the escape notification that I escaped their chase, and they kind of lost me for a second. If they lost me for a second, then sometimes I'll stop running. I'll walk a little bit and then jump into a locker that's nearby. I won't run into the locker because if you run into the locker, it's going to show scratch marks. But if you walk into the locker, it's not going to show scratch marks. So sometimes that's how I lose them. Is they're they just lost me. They're looking around. Okay, I just lost them. They're somewhere nearby. So I stop running. I jump to a locker real quick. They go by me and then they jump back.
Right, and it can happen. It does happen, right, with the higher rank. But when you get to the lower ranks, so when you get to the ranks where, the more experienced, they're going to know, I'm going to check that locker. Especially, you never want to go in a locker if you're playing against a huntress in that kind of situation. Because what happens is she throws hatchets at you, and where she reloads her hatchets.
I remember I did that this time.
Yes, exactly. Yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did.
Yeah.
I said, you don't want to go in that locker, Blaise. He went in there and he's like, oh, I want to try it. I was like, well, she gets her hatchets there. And sure enough, I think she went to go reload her hatchets. To her surprise,
she's like, oh, there's a person.
She was introduced to the BlaiseXPerience. So, so I forgot about that. That was amazing. Yeah, we had a good laugh on that one. Although you could see Blaise definitely defends the locker, which I say yes, you can use it to your advantage. But you got to be smart when you're doing it.
I think part of my affinity with it, though, too, is if I'm injured, which I am injured a lot in this game, so that's part of my thinking here is if I'm injured, then my blood trail, if I jump in a locker and I wait for a little bit, that blood trail is going to disappear. So the killer's not going to know where that blood trail is. Yes. So especially a lot of situations I do use it, which we didn't mention this situation yet, but say I just got unhooked, the killer's, somewhere else on the map. They're going to be coming probably to that hook to find out where I went. What I'll do is I'll try to run as little as possible and then kind of jump into a locker that's a little bit farther from that hook, let my blood trail disappear. Then by the time they get there, the blood trail's already gone, there's no scratch marks, and they don't really know where I am. So that's where it sometimes works out for me, because they're going to think, okay, maybe he's in a locker right next to the hook, but if I walked a little bit away to a different locker, that's sometimes where I can get away with it.
Very true. But the problem is as well, they won't see your blood, but they can hear you squeal if you're wounded. So
in the locker as well?
So they can hear you.
I didn't know that.
So if they hear that, obviously they're going to be like, where the heck is this guy? Let me check here. And then boom. Sure enough, that's what happens. So unless you have Iron Will, which is a perk where it eliminates your pain when you're in a wounded state, people, Iron Will is a great perk that's what I use. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's when I'm hurt and I'm being chased and I may have lost this killer. He is looking for me, but he can't hear me in pain and agony. Right? I've got Iron Will, so meaning I can keep quiet.
So I probably need that perk then.
It's a great perk, Jake. Where you unlock it, or of course the Shrine of Secrets. Actually, there's a perk. Actually, just for a sec here for you, I was thinking about you, Blaise. There is a perk that's on the Shrine of Secrets right now that I'd say you consider unlocking, because I just got it because I was like, oh my gosh, like this is cool. I want to use this for fun. It's called Diversion, and what Diversion is, you actually have a pebble. And you can throw it, and what it will do, it will rake an alert as if you blew a gen or you've jumped over a pallet to allure the killer to that direction, which is completely awesome. It's just incredible. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I see my friend using it the other day. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? He goes, it's in the Shrine of Secrets. It's one of the new survivors. So you can actually pick up a rock. And how you regen the rock is you have to be in the killer's heart radius, and it reloads the rock for you. So something kind of cool there for you, because I know you would like to kind of play those kind of mind games, which is cool, right? You can divert, make a sound there, and kind of get you.
It'll probably take me a little bit to learn how to use it effectively, but it sounds.
Yeah, so it's on the Shrine of Secrets right now until about 7 Eastern. So when we hop on there, maybe take a consideration on it. Actually, I'm going to try it when we play, because I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah.
But we have some other tips, of course. So one thing we talked about earlier in the podcast is we did talk about the basement a little bit, and I wrote a tip that's, basement equals bad, which you can kind of explain why the basement is so bad and kind of why you shouldn't go in the basement.
If you're going to go hide in the basement when you're, if you know a killer's around and you're hiding in a basement, the basement is every survivor's kryptonite. And that is
definitely,
that is the home base of that killer. Meaning those hooks, when you hook someone in the game, so when a killer hooks a survivor in the game, if they die, what happens, it disables that hook. That hook is no longer usable. Now, in the basement, they're always usable, so they'll never break. You go down there, number one, you put yourself in the situation because there's one way in, one way out. So killer, you go down there to hide, and he knows you're down there because there is a perk that it'll alert the killer that you're down there. So you go there hiding, he grabs you, he takes you, and there's lockers there. There's a few lockers there. There's a few corners. He can grab.
I've hidden them.
Exactly. It is a death trap. So once you're hooked there and a killer camps, so you're in a tough situation getting your teammate out of there. Because there's one way in, one way out. Especially if there's a Leatherface where he has this way with his chainsaw where he kind of just has a swerve motion where you really can't juke it. You just gotta hope he hits a wall or something. You're in a tough situation. So definitely want to avoid the basement unless, you know the killer's out of sight.
And now, out of curiosity, is there one killer in the game that you think, if you're in the basement, it's actually a little bit easier to escape that killer? Like, say that killer's coming to the basement, is there one killer that's a little bit easier to get by?
Yeah, anyone but Leatherface. Maybe Hillbilly.
Anyone but Leatherface?
Hillbilly is definitely, he has a chainsaw as well, so it'd be tough to run and gun, but you still have a chance. I think it's more Leatherface can just completely. That's why a lot of Leatherfaces, when they get you down there, they definitely are going to hold their ground if they know you're there, because you can't get out. He can block that whole stairwell, use his chainsaw, and chop you all down. It's over. Yeah.
Because for me, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I was thinking, for me, the best one to escape the basement would be the nurse, because the nurse is the slowest killer. And yes, they have that blink ability, but that blink isn't going to really do much on stairs. Like, that blink is probably not the best suited for stairs, so I would think the nurse is probably the easiest to get around.
Yeah, if you know what, like we talked about briefly last time, the nurse is probably the best killer in the game. If you can get her down, she's to learn, but if you can she can hit you. You can run up the stairs, but if she knows how to use that blink, she can blink up there and get you. But yeah, definitely, she's probably one of the easiest ones. Freddy Krueger is definitely easy because he's got to put you in the dream state first, and that takes a few seconds for you to be put in a dream state, so you can get out definitely too. That's another easy one. True. Michael Myers is definitely not someone you want to be down there with too, because he can juice you all with the stock ability put into tier 3 and then one hit down you. So yeah, plus it gets more speed. You're screwed.
That's definitely not a good idea.
You definitely want to be down there.
And even your favorite, I would say the clown. That's your favorite. That's not a good one either because he can throw those little smoke bomb things.
Yes, the toxins slow you down. He throws the toxins at you. Yeah, you slow down. He whacks you. It takes you down again too. It's another tough one. Yeah, those throwing abilities. Even the Huntress, man, she'll throw hatchets at you, and she has that time and enough time because the locker's right beside her at the entrance. She can just reload. Yeah, some tough situations.
Right. And even my favorite, the pig, is probably not going to work out the best either if they know how to play it, because now that they changed the pig to have the crouch ability, it's a lot less time to crouch, they can literally just crouch next to you and then use their ability to have the ambush attack and get you really fast. So
exactly,
that's not a good one either.
So there's that other situation where you're put into, right? Like, depending on what killer, but you just don't want to be in that situation at all. It's the worst thing you can do to yourself, to get in that basement and get yourself into trouble.
Now, of course, there are situations where, obviously it's not your fault. You can't avoid it. I mean, if the killer gets you down and you're fairly close to the basement, they might take you to the basement to hook you. And that's a smart play on their part because then the survivors are going to have a harder time rescuing you. So basically, that's the only time you really want to go in the basement is if you're trying to rescue somebody. And even then, you still don't want to go there, but you kind of have to.
Exactly. So just don't go to that basement, especially when you're starting. Retreat immediately.
I mean, think of any horror movie you've seen. Does it ever end well in the basement?
Usually not. Exactly. So get out of there. Don't get yourself into that pickle.
Don't hide in lockers like I do in the basement.
Definitely bad, especially if someone's been unhooked and the person that was unhooked, the killer sees running out, but he goes down and he's like, wait, someone unhooked you. I didn't see the one coming. I didn't see the one that unhooked you, and you're hiding in a locker. He's going to go down and check every locker. Yeah.
I did actually have one time. It was only one time ever, but there's one time there's 4 lockers in the basement. The killer checked the first 2. They didn't check the rest, and I was in one of the other ones. So I did actually work out one time.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. It's really funny, actually. I'm just sitting in the locker. I'm like, oh, damn, he checked the locker. He's going to find me. He checked 2 of them, and then he stopped. I'm like, wait, why are you not checking the rest? I'm like, okay.
I'll take it. Thanks, dude. Yeah. It happens, man. So many. Oh, you never know what you're going to get in this game. It's just fun. Yeah.
Definitely. But another tip we actually have is an interesting one. It's a well-timed hide is sometimes better than running away. And this is something that I learned a lot more from you. It takes time to master this, but it's basically using the killer's field of view to your advantage. So the killer has that red stain, and that's where they can actually view. So if you use that to your advantage and they're chasing you, you can sometimes hide behind a rock or hide behind a wall and have them run by you, and they don't realize that you're actually hiding there. So if you want to explain that more?
Yeah, you definitely want to. I think a lot of people panic, right, when they see the killer, so they all of a sudden start running. No, you don't have to panic. He doesn't see you. He's coming by. Hide, take cover, and, avoid that field of view. Exactly. Coverage is your number one friend in this game. You have no weapons. What you have, you do have weapons. I'm going to correct myself there. You have, you have your surroundings. Yeah. You have your rocks. You have your ruins. You have those true. As your weapons of disguise. You need to be hidden. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people, when in doubt, they hear that heartbeat, they start immediately running. You don't need to. If he's on his way, take your time, walk it out a little bit. So say, for instance, I'm doing a generator. I'm hearing that heartbeat and I know it's coming my way. I walk out to a hidden distance. Okay, it won't be long. I just got to get out of that ruin area, and then I start running because right away he's gonna kick, look for scratch marks. He doesn't see it, and I'm hiding somewhere, right? So
Right, and then by the time he sees the scratch marks that had
they're
later
going to be
on,
gone
they're
when
going to be
he's
gone.
looking around for where I'm at, right? He's going to be like, "What the heck is this guy?" So
right, because if you walk like the first 5 feet and then run after that, he's going to be checking that first 5 feet first, and by the time he gets to the end of that first 5 feet, then the scratch marks are going to be gone. So
exactly, because it buys you time. He's going
then.
to kick the generator because it takes about, I believe, 7 seconds for the scratch marks to go. So you're looking at he's come through. He's kicking the gen. It's bought you about 4 seconds. And then those 3 seconds when he's looking around like, where's this person? Your scratch marks have already been damaged. They're already gone.
And actually, there's a perk I'm using right now. I think it's called Lightweight that makes the scratch mark disappear 3 seconds faster. So it's only 4 seconds for me. So for me as a newer player, I like that perk because it helps me, disappear faster.
I really like that perk. Now, the unfortunate thing about that is that I can't use it because I love the other ones I'm using. But I really like that perk because it's so clutch, especially when you're starting. It gives you time. It gives you time that sometimes you don't have. A lot of times you don't have, but it definitely gives you the time to get away because it eliminates those crucial 3 seconds matter in this game. And if you're going to eliminate scratch marks, especially 3 seconds, it's a good thing. A very good thing.
And maybe that's why my locker move actually works a little bit more than it should because I'm using that perk. So maybe that's part
definitely
of why
possibly too. Like, if they're coming around and they're looking for you and then the scratch marks are gone, obviously in 4 seconds, you're laughing. Yeah.
Right.
Unless they know.
But yeah, so, try and learn those hides. I mean, it does take time to master this. I've done it a couple times where it actually worked out pretty cool. And ACC can do it pretty well, but it's not something that you're going to learn overnight with the when to hide and when not to hide. Like, because your instinct when you first play this is, like ACC said, oh, the killer's coming, run. Like, that is your instinct for like the first probably 100 hours of the game. So I'm not even past that yet because, I haven't reached 100 hours yet. So like, I still do it because, your first instinct is like, oh shoot, killer, run. Like, that's your first instinct.
Your big play is wanting to try to be patient. You need to be patient. You need to like look at your surrounding and not worry. Because once you're hitting a rock, remember, he's walking by, he doesn't know. Unless he sees you. So you're safe.
And that's where you get those boldness points, because you're sitting right next to him and he has no idea. So that's where you get those boldness points.
Exactly. Boldness points indeed. So, and boldness points are that. When he walks by, you're getting points like, wow, you got calzones to doing that. But that's what you need to do, right? So, yeah.
Exactly. But another tip that actually takes time to master is don't waste pallets if you don't have to. And this one, I honestly don't understand. Like, I know what the gist of this tip is, but honestly, I haven't mastered any of this yet because I'm just too busy running away still. I'm not in that phase yet where I'm not running. So I think it's a perk I keep saying perk, but I think it's a tip that takes time to master because you have to learn, okay, I can save this palette for later and not waste it, and I can get away a different way. So I think this is something that it takes learning your map surroundings a lot more because for me personally right now, I still don't know the map surroundings well enough that I don't use the pallets. So I use the pallets, a lot of times when I don't.
Pallets are obviously a big part of your survival. Now, why you choose when not to use it, when to use it, because here's the thing. Pallets buy you time. Pallets buy you time, but here's the thing. If a killer knows, if you're way ahead of a killer or somewhat ahead of a killer and you drop a pallet down, he's just going to loop around it, right? And it's cost you vital seconds. Because what you want to do is you want to use that pallet if he's about to almost hit you so you can stun him. Because what it does, it buys you time. It buys you crucial seconds. I think 1.5 seconds. And that's a lot of time to gain speed. And what he's going to do is he's going to break that pallet, which has bought you another 3 seconds. You know what I mean? So you want to do that if you're in danger, because if you're going to just drop it, he's going to say, thanks, I'm going to break this, get some extra points, and it severs us through the game, right? You want to be definitely strategic with your pallet dropping. just for the sake of survival, especially long term in the game, like in the later stretches. If he finds you, and you have no window loops, no buildings to go to, you just want to be really smart with it.
Yeah, because a lot of experienced killers, if you're dropping pallets for them,
Yes.
they're going to love that because they're going to be like, oh, yes, this pallet's gone. This pallet's gone. I mean, this is awesome because I don't know if any listeners out there know Monto, but ACC and I have talked about him before. We both, watched a lot of his videos, and a lot of his videos, people drop pallets all the time, and he literally says in his videos, like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes,
like,
I love him. He's definitely probably my favorite to watch. And he really shows like, okay, well, you're going to drop that early? And he's a rank 1. We're talking rank 1s are dropping these pallets too early. When you can, here's the thing, we have our joysticks. He has his computer, but we have our joysticks. We can learn to pivot the movement, turn it around to see where the killer is. That's what I do, right? So you can use the right joystick and turn and look back when I'm running to see how close he is. And will I have time? Because if I don't see that red light behind me where he's about to hit me, I want to know how close. So, yeah, if you're going to just drop it, he's going to be like, thank you, kick. And you know what the worst thing is? Survivors will look at him, kicking it. Run! Run!
Yeah.
Run! Because now you're just giving him what he wants because you're like, okay, am I good here? What is he going to do? What's his play? You're thinking he's going to rotate and you can loop back to it. No. Experienced killers are going to break it down and you've wasted vital seconds watching him break it. So, yes, you definitely don't want to do that.
And that's where that term, like, respecting the pallet or not respecting it comes into play, because I would assume respecting it means that the killers are just going to take out the pallet, and not respecting it means that they're just going to, leave the pallet there. And
no, respecting the pallet is when you're being chased, and it's a close one, and he's about to hit you, and you have that pallet, and you drop it, he stops. So they're like, shit, he's respecting the pallet. Right? They're going to be like, damn it! Right? Or he's not respecting the pallet, meaning he's going full swing, even when you drop the pallet. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's what that means.
Yeah, no worries. That's pretty much what it is. So a lot of times, like when I used to play with tryhards, it was funny to listen to them because like, oh, come on, man, respect the pallet. Right? And they get down because the killer just hit them and they drop the pallet at the same time. It's just kind of funny. But that is respecting the pallet now, so it's funny. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I love it.
But yeah, I mean, if it's an experienced killer, like, someone like Monto or someone else that's experienced, they're going to love it if you drop those pallets for them, because basically all you're doing is making their end game easier. And that's why, I mean, I'm not trying to speak for the guy, but I think he would say, this makes his end game easier, and that's why he likes it, because at the end game, all you're going to have is like, I only have like 2 pallets left. So he can chase you around, do whatever he wants, and you're not going to have any pallets.
Right, because you're not slowing him down. And by that time, if he's chasing you for a long time, a killer develops something called bloodlust. So the longer they're chasing you, that they speed up. They'll get bonus speed. So they catch up quicker. So pretty much, if you don't have no pallet there, he's just going to run right through you and eventually hit you. So there's no escape.
Definitely. But this kind of brings me to another tip that we sort of talked about a little bit in here, and that's adapt to the killer or player you're facing. So with this one, you can kind of tell after a while, what the killer's tendencies are and how to adapt to those. For example, with pallets, they might, if you drop a pallet, they might always go around the pallet and never break it. So you can always, count on that, like, oh, this killer's not breaking pallets. I can, use this pallet, jump back over it. Or if they always are breaking pallets, to just keep running, and not worry about it. Or with the hooks, for example, if they're camping the people that they put on hooks, okay, they're going to camp this hook. Or on the opposite end, they might, if they have like barbecue and chili, for example, they might hook somebody and then immediately run away from that hook. That way they can actually know where you are. So you might know their tendencies with that. So it's really important to try and learn the killer's tendencies, which it takes a long time to actually, learn this and use this information, but it's important to try and use this to your advantage later in the game.
Right, in terms of learning the killer's tactics, you're saying? Yeah, so if you're learning the killer's tactics, you're eventually, as you're playing more and more, you're going to learn what style killer you're taking on in terms of, A, is this a camper that will hook me and stay right there? B, is it someone that maybe is, he's a run and gun, so he'll drop you, go to the next. So you got to gauge how they play and what's to your advantage. For instance, if someone's a camper, here's the thing. Now you got to go, okay, so this guy's on the hook. This killer is not going to move. What are you going to do? The strategy is gen rush, completely gen rush, as many gens as possible before that character dies, the survivor dies. Or as opposed to the run and gun, okay, let me hold a second. Here he goes. He's going on to the next person. Let me unhook them safely. And even with their style of when you're playing mind games and they're chasing, you'll be able to gauge to see if they respect pallets or don't respect pallets, what you can do to maneuver and get out of the way. But that's over time. That's like quite a few 100 hours of just going, okay, this is what I got. This is what I have to work with. And this is what I can do. Yeah.
And over time, you can actually, without even knowing officially, you could probably tell some of the killer's perks over time. Like, for example, there's a perk called Nurse's Calling. If you're healing and they're always finding you when you're healing, they probably have that perk. Because
exactly.
That perk
you'll know right away. Be like, what the heck? How did this guy... Here's the thing, how it works. If a killer's around 8 meters from you, he can hear the bandages if he doesn't have Nurse's Calling. So he can hear someone healing up. He can hear someone putting bandages on him. If he's about 20 meters out, he can't hear anything. But if he has Nurse's Calling, he can see your aura, and then he'll come to you, right? So that's one thing you'll be able to gauge and know. Be like, okay, I gotta be careful if I don't heal. And at that point, I'm hoping anyone that deals with the killer that has Nurse's Calling that you have Iron Will, because you're in a bit of a pickle.
Yeah.
But yes, you'll be able to gauge and see what they have. Like if you're hiding well and you keep noticing there's a killer that, why does he keep lingering around me? I'm not detected or anything. He probably has the perk called Whispers, where the entity is whispering to his ear, someone's around this vicinity. You know, there's things you can gauge what the killer's using and whatnot at times for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing with this game. I mean, there's a lot of like different killers and combinations with perks that like it takes a long time to learn how to counter each situation. I mean, like we talked about Nurse's Calling, you know, I can think of like a really annoying combination with that. It would be if a doctor has Nurse's Calling, that'd probably be really annoying to face.
So much pain. But the thing is, it would be weird to have a doctor that had it just because they put you in the psychotic state. The
right,
state.
So they probably wouldn't need it, like it would be even more of a situation where like they probably don't need it, but it's even another situation where you can't hide from the doctor. So like you really can't hide from the doctor if they have that too.
Right, exactly. And oh my gosh, if a doctor had that on top of it, like, oh my gosh. It's just they've got so many other tools to destroy us with. Yeah, just get some Nurse's Calling in there. Oh my gosh,
exactly.
Pain. I'm already thinking about it.
Or like, which you can probably get some tips on this because I don't really know a lot of tips for this yet, but one of the killers that I struggle against a lot is the Hag with their traps, and one of the reasons I struggle against them a lot is because they usually use Hex Ruin. So I don't really know how to combat Hex Ruin that well yet because for me, I'm not good enough at skill checks yet to actually hit the great skill checks all the time. So for me, when Hex Ruin's on, I pretty much it just kind of stops me in my tracks. I'm like, well, I have to find this totem or else I can't win. So I don't know if there's a tip to combat Hex Ruin more.
It's timely, but it gets the job done because the killer's thinking everyone's looking for the ruin. And he's usually finding someone running around. What you want to do is you want to pulse tap. So you want to tap the RB, like tap the repair and then get off. Tap and get off. Tap and get off. Because what it does, it doesn't give the prompt for the skill check, right? If you keep tapping it, so progressively the gen will start being activated. It's a patient game, but sometimes if you got one person on there and the other is doing whatever, it helps because at least something's getting done. A generator is going to be activated. Right, even if we can't find the ruin at that time, so you got to tap. So continue tapping once.
Which, if you had two people tapping the same gen, that
yes,
makes it faster.
It's even faster, of course. So you have that where you can activate a generator and try and it throws off the killer sometimes. They're like, oh my gosh, but it takes longer. Yeah,
right. And with the Hag specifically, they obviously throw out on their traps a lot, which I learned from you that if you crouch, it doesn't activate her traps. So that's probably the best way to
exactly. So there's two ways. You can either use a flashlight to activate them, but the thing is, she'll teleport there. So you probably want to do that if it's in a hook situation and it's in a dire end game, or you crouch. So you crouch, unhook, the person that's unhooked has to crouch, and you guys crouch out, so you don't activate it until, unless you hear the heartbeat, then you have no choice. You have to run. So that's definitely a counter for it.
Right. So there's some tips for that, but another tip that I know you can do, I definitely have no idea how to do this yet, but you can kind of use 360 moves or jukes to kind of throw the killer off. So like the killer can be chasing you, and you can kind of double back in the opposite direction and throw them off because they don't swing fast enough. So I don't know if you want to explain that.
Yeah, so 360 juke, obviously, it can come in clutch when you have nothing around you. So if the killer's about to swing, you can time it when they're about to swing that one motion, and you can turn either right or left and kind of just do a loop around them where they have a second where they have to catch their wind, and then it just buys you vital time. Either A, you lose them, depending on your scenario, where you're at, and if you're in hay or at fields of corn, it depends where you are. But yeah, 360 definitely comes in clutch to get you to an area where you can have an advantage. So definitely a clutch. Very hard to learn in the beginning, but once you get your grips with it, it becomes a very useful tool. Definitely it's been helping me out, because that's since I've come back playing the game, my goal was to work on jukes, work on, if I'm in a tough situation, I'll be comfortable.
And like you said, it's hard to learn. Like, it's not something that at my stage, I'm not even trying to learn that yet. I have many other things.
Exactly, right? You're learning the stealth factor, trying not to be found, and that's what you want to do in the beginning, right? You do not want to be found. You want to be quick and quiet, which is a perk. But you just want to do that as opposed to wanting to be in a chase, because you don't really know what to do at that time.
But last but not least, the last tip I have on my list, that you can talk about any other ones you have afterwards, but the last one I have is coordinate with your team as much as possible. And this kind of should go without saying, but it's worth mentioning at least, because, coordinating with your team is very important as a survivor, and that is how you win the game. I mean, if you're playing, solo, kind of do whatever you want, you might escape with the hatch if you're lucky, but you're not going to get your whole team out. And the object is to get your whole team out. I mean, it's a selfish move to try, I'm just going to camp the hatch and just wait for the hatch. Like, that's a pretty selfish move, and it's technically you can do it, but it's kind of, if you're really trying to be a good survivor, it's kind of frowned upon because you're not being a team player at all. So you really want to coordinate with your team. Obviously, if you're all in a party chat together, that's, fairly easier. If you're not in a party chat, though, if you're playing with a bunch of randoms, you can still coordinate with your team, because there's things like pointing or motioning to come here. You can use those motions to actually tell someone, okay, let's go here. And I've seen you do that. I don't really know how to master that quite yet, but there's ways you can actually do that and coordinate with your team. Or, okay, this guy's getting chased. Let me get some gens done while you're getting chased. Or okay, this person's going for the unhook, let me get some gens done while they're doing the unhook. So even if you're playing with a group of randoms, you can still coordinate with them without actually talking to each other.
Well, using console, using the Xbox, anyways, you're going to use the D-pad, right, to either point forward, go this way, or D-pad down where it says come this way, follow me, where you can coordinate with the team if you don't have a team together. And obviously communication is the number one thing for this game in terms of survivors, where you need to be able to know what you're doing. Who's doing what? Is the killer after you? Have you lost the killer? Do I have time to still finish this generator? You really want to communicate, because the more you communicate, the higher chance you'll all make it out there, at least 3 of you, if not 2. Most times, if you really coordinate well, 4, right? You're just out there and you make it. But communication is key. I think a tip that I definitely give for a team of 4, if you're just starting out or whatnot, or you've been playing this game for a bit, that I think the best strategy to have with 4 people is, 1 is the decoy. So 1 will play the soundbreaker, maybe comfortable with jukes, likes being chased. Even if you don't like being chased, you make a sound if you're in opposite zones. So you get to opposite zones of each other, you make noise, killer gets distracted, while the other 3, if you're together, you're doing a gen. And remember, the more on one gen, the faster the gen will be done. So you can do that, pop it, boom. You'll have one that has that set. Or, for instance, if someone has been hooked, the decoy's been hooked, you have that one person okay, he's the unhook. I'm going to go. I'll take it. You two, gen rush. Like, so, there's always, you at least need to have two together to be able, gens need to be done, regardless. You need to have a team of two to be on a gen.
Right.
You need to have the other two to be ready to be doing whatever it takes to kind of distract. And a lot of the times, you find yourself in a great situation where the killer gets frustrated because he's chased one or he's looking for the guy that's making these noises and he already took off. And you're already with one gen remaining. You know what I mean? So I think the communication is definitely key. And to have a team like that where you guys know, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I have to do, and you're very, very responsive to, hey, what's going on? This is what's going on. I'm being chased. Okay, we're good. We have time. Don't go here. I'm over here doing this gen. Okay, I'm gonna loop back. Just communication's the number one thing. But having that strategy in place, you're good.
That's one of the things I hate the most is like, I almost have a gen done, and then the person runs the killer right to me. I'm like, come on. I was like literally 5 seconds.
Yeah, and you know what? You sometimes you just don't know because there are perks. Like a big, there are perks. There was a big thing back when I was playing. People would use Bond, and what Bond is with, I think it's 32 meters. You're able to see who's around you in 32 meters, like your squad. And you can use that to your advantage, knowing, okay, I'm being chased. I know not to go there, but a lot of people randos would use it to be like, okay, let me go to him. So the killer would get him instead of me. Let me run off. There's another perk called empathy. And this was my favorite because it's similar to Bond, but the only way this would work is if your survivor is injured. So it only shows you, and it gives you an unlimited radius. So it gives you the whole map when you tier 3 it of where a wounded survivor is, so you'll know. Usually if they're wounded at that moment, they're being chased, so you'll be like, okay, this guy is way over here, I can still work on this gen. Or as opposed to, oh my gosh, this person's coming my way, let me get off this gen because he's about to give me out. So there's a lot of things you can do, but communication is best. But to have that strategy of, you have that decoy and the others are just gen rushing, brings hell to every killer.
No, definitely. And I think kind of like you were saying too, it helps to have people that have like varying play styles on your team, because if you have a team that like, all of us like to be chased, well, that doesn't really help get gens done, or vice versa. All of us like doing gens. Well, that doesn't really help either, because you kind of need the guy to be the distraction. So it helps to have the varying styles.
And it's funny. It's good that you say that, because it reminded me about last night when I'm teaching to the two friends I was teaching, and they've become adapted to, as soon as they hear a heartbeat, they run away. And I said, no, if it's a faint heartbeat, I'm teaching them to play as a rank 1. If it's faint and you can see the killer, but he's nowhere near you, why are you running off? Commando the gen. I will still do a gen. If there's a guy being chased 10 meters, 15 meters away from me, and I'm watching the chase, and it's so close I can get caught, I'm doing the gen. Because that killer, I know, is focused on that survivor. I'm going to do that gen instead of running out.
Right.
So now I was teaching them that, and it really worked. It was like they really utilized it. They were like, I'm scared. It's okay. That's good. Keep going. That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Exactly. Keep going. And they did it.
And that's something I've actually learned too, because I've had situations where I can literally see the chase in front of me. Like, I can literally see the killer. I can see the survivor being chased, but I'm just sitting on the gen. I'm like, well, they're chasing that survivor. They don't care about me. So I'm just going to do this gen.
And it's all about time. And if you're killing time or wasting time on basically hiding when there's nothing to be hiding about, and you're more than likely not going to succeed, and your team won't as well.
Exactly. But that was all the tips I had on my list. Do you have anything that you'd like to mention we didn't talk about?
We narrowed down everything really you need to know. And when you threw tips, I was throwing out those tips too. I think those are the big things. I think don't worry necessarily about just play the game. Don't worry about blood points too much right away. Kind of just play the game. Get a feel of what you're doing. Get out there and just do those gens. Learn these maps. Figure out your style of play. And then afterwards, because a lot of people, when they start, they get concerned about, okay, I don't know what character to use. I don't know what perks or what are great or whatnot. I think learn the game, get comfortable first. Then you'll understand as you go what you need. and what's right for you. And I think that's what I think for a beginner
Definitely.
survivor, I think they right away like, oh, I'm at a disadvantage, right? No, you're not. You're not at a disadvantage. You're good. You just got to understand that. And then when the perks come your way, you'll start to understand, okay, you know what, this is my playing style, and you're looking through perks and like, I need this kind of perk. You might invest your blood points to, that survivor, like Iron Will.
Exactly. Like, my shards, for example, I haven't spent a single shard yet because I'm saving my shards for something that I know I need.
I spent my shards for the first time yesterday, I told you, because I got diversion. I was thinking, I think Blaise would like this. I think, the way he can strategize.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out in action, so.
I'm definitely going to try it out.
Which I did just think, one thing we didn't really talk about at all, that we could probably mention briefly if you have any tips on, is we mentioned the Hex Ruin. Do you have any tips on finding totems or finding the hatch? Because those are things that are probably hard for new players to find. So, do you have any tips on how to find totems?
They do a better job in hiding the totems. So you want to really look around totems where they're around gens or ruins. They're never really outside on the edges of the map. It's very rare unless you're in like a swamp area. But if there's a tree there, you probably want to check behind a tree and there's like a boat or something like that. You definitely want to check there. But a lot of the times it's in the buildings or in the ruins or near generators, not too far off, always against a tree or a bush or, a wall. You definitely want to always go there. It's never around the edges of the map. Again, unless it's in a swampy map where there's a tree, a bunch of other things around it. So they're always around things that are structures.
And what about the inside maps, like the game or the mental institution?
Mental institution's a tough one because it can be in any room. So you're looking at every room and you got to find it, right? Yeah, they can be in any room. Right. They can even be when you start. Yeah.
Same with the game.
Here's the thing with the institution, you can actually have a totem right where you spawn, where the escape gates are. Sometimes you can actually literally have one right there behind a wall. Remember, a structure. If there's I
actually see it a lot. There's usually a
garbage bin.
I almost always see
something there.
Wall,
if there's a structure there, it's more than likely there's a chance there could be there. So check, just when in doubt, With the game map, it's a maze on its own. So it can be anywhere. Anywhere there's a pillar or structure of that sort. Yeah, you gotta check, right? So it's tough.
So those are probably the two hardest maps to find totems, I think.
Because the other ones are pretty straightforward. But those two definitely can be a bit challenging.
And then quickly, the hatch. There's probably not a lot of tips for finding because it can literally spawn anywhere, I think. I mean, I would think the only tip is you just have to listen for that whistle when it actually opens, because if you hear that whistle, it's around close to you. But unless you have any other tips for finding when it's
a lot of the times it depends what map it is, but they're all random spots and locations. What I always recommend is when you're in you're the last one out there looking for a gen, what I do, I run around the edges of the map first. So why I run around the edges? Because if it's at a certain distance, I'll hear a faint, whistle-ish hum, right? And from there, I'll know where to go, right? Your headphones will tell you it's on the right or the left. I'll start from there. If it's not around when I've done my lap, then I'll start going in. I'll get closer around the center core. Because if you get around there, you'll find it. Sometimes certain maps, you'll find them in pantries, right? You'll find it in the actual shack or in the middle of a field or in just a deep corner somewhere. So there's not really a strategy just because it's so randomly placed. And there's quite a few random ones. Like if you're in Haddonfield, Michael Myers map, I always will check the road first because a lot of the times you'll be surprised it's right there or not too far from the road, from the street. So
I've noticed that the Madam Preschool map, Freddy's map, it seems like it spawns a lot in the boiler room basement. Is that
I've
true?
never personally seen I've seen it a couple times, but I've never personally seen it as much. I always usually see it. It's right on the. It's on the street.
I've seen it.
That's another one where it's a lot of times you'll find it on the street or in a corner.
I think the only map that I know of a guaranteed tip for the hatch is the game. It's always going to be on the bottom floor, which is very helpful because it can't be on the top floor because you would. Where's the hatch going?
Yes.
The hatch is going to the bottom floor. So the hatch is always going to be on the bottom floor. So that is a helpful tip for the game. Is that you never look at the top. You always look on the bottom somewhere, which is definitely helpful because it takes away half the map.
And speaking of the hatch, this is a great tip, and I think I need to get this out because a lot of people are tentative about it. I remember we were playing a game, and I was telling you to tell the guy, I don't know who it was, Zombie or Tannis, don't be a chicken, get in there. You're full of health. When you're in a face-off. So when there's one survivor left, you've activated more than 2 gens, so you have 3 left, but it will spawn the hatch, and you find the hatch, and the killer's there. You're in a standoff. You're in a face-off. You are now alpha. You are the alpha male. So by saying that, it means that the killer has to wait for you to try to jump in, because then he'll double tap the trigger button for a console and grab you. You don't need to do anything. It's up to him now. So what you want to do is usually a killer, not experienced, so if you're new, you're going to run into this a lot. The killer's going to get excited, and he's going to hit you. As soon as he hits you, you can jump into the hatch, you make it. A lot of people are afraid. You don't need to be. Unless they have no one escapes death, you don't need to be. And a lot of the times, if it comes down to it, you haven't activated all gens to see the hatch, so you don't have to worry about no one escapes death. So what you want to do is, you want to get there. Obviously, don't be seen right away. Try to get as close as you can quietly. But when you're in that point where you're right there, so close, get up in front of him. See if he gets excited, hits you. As soon as he hits you, boom. So I always try to preach that. A lot of people get scared thinking they're going to die right away. You're not. Actually, you're alpha at that point.
Right, because basically once he hits you, you have a cooldown time where you can just jump in the hatch.
Yeah, because he's winding back up to try and hit you again, but he can't, right? It takes like half a second. That half a second is clutch, because what happens is you're in that hatch, you've won the game. Even in a dying state, if you're in a dying state and he hits you in a dying state, great. You're right there in the hatch, you're in. Even better for you. So I'd say, yes, you find a hatch and you're near it, you get there before the killer, or you sneak behind the killer while he's there, you win this game.
Now, can the killer grab you, though, if you're standing up? So, like, say he... No. Okay, that's what I thought. So, basically, you're just... Yes. You want him to hit you, because if, like, say you're the killer and I'm the survivor, if I'm standing up, I'm not injured, if you're just standing by the hatch and I'm standing next to you, then you can't grab me, right? You have to actually knock me down. Yes,
unless you're jumping in. Again, if you're jumping in and he's right there, he'll time it and grab you. But other than that, he cannot grab you. Once he hits you, that's it. He hits you, done. Like, you're in.
So that's the thing, then. You basically want to get hits. I mean, you can literally walk right up to the killer's face.
You need to get hit.
For them to hit you.
Yes.
So you can literally stand at their face, yeah.
You get hit, it's the best thing. You win the game. You get an extra 2,000 points on top of the 5,000 get for escaping. So 7,000 points, which is great.
I could imagine some funny situations, though, if it's an experienced killer. If you walk up to them wanting to get hit, and they just stand there and look at you.
Yeah, there's a standoff. It can happen. I've heard stories that are ridiculous. Like, a guy for over 3 hours did a standstill with a guy. And you know what? I've never had a standoff more than less than 20 minutes, where I have a strategy where I just stay paused, and the crows go over my head, and it puts them in a question. Are they even there? You know what I mean? At this point, so they'll try, and then I end up getting out because I am there. I'm just waiting for you to question it. Or they won't wait, right? I will never go for 3 hours. That's too long. Like, especially if I'm streaming. I tell the stream, we're doing this no more than 10 minutes. If it goes down, I'm going to try and lower them out, right? So, yeah. Standoffs do happen. Right. Some people really go hard.
I actually remember one stream you had where you had like a sort of standoff with a killer at the hatch, and they let you go because, you know, you were honorable about it, so they let you go. Like, I think they hit you, knocked you down, but then they were picking you up to put you on a hook, and you didn't even struggle. So they were nice about it. They're like, all right, whatever, I'll just drop you.
Yeah, I claimed defeat. At that point, you won. There was no point. I was the only the player left. And I think at that point, yeah, it's rare, but you'll have a good sport where you'll be like, you know what? Take it, man. That was a good game. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Which is really cool.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much all the tips we have for survivors, and we added a couple more there at the end, so a couple more.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's so much to learn in this game, you know, as a killer and a survivor that, you know, at the top of my head, I can't even think of what we missed. We definitely probably missed some things, but I think the gist and the overall, you'll get the picture of what to do. You definitely have an idea now, and just try to utilize them. Good luck though, because it's like you're jumped in there and you see a killer for the first time. You're definitely what you're learning here. You're probably the first 2 games you'll be thrown out the window just because you're like, oh my god, what is this chasing me?
Exactly.
But don't worry, once you get the gist of it and you take these tips, they will definitely be useful, and you will succeed.
You'll have to listen to the podcast
Absolutely.
twice just to make sure you get them all.
Just to make sure and refresh. So it'll be great. You'll do great.
But we will be back in March to have the third episode of our Dead by Daylight series, and in March we're probably going to be talking about tips for killers. So, ACC and I will have to switch gears and play some killer in, March to kind of get in prep for that podcast. So we'll get some tips for killers and what you should do as a killer.
Definitely fun. I did have my share of killer times back in the day, and I just fell in love with Survivor. But yes, I'll definitely jump into the killer side again. Play that. That's going to be fun and painful at the same time. And you jump into my clown and Mike Myers. I'm going to switch between the two. And then, we'll do it. And hopefully we'll get some news, and we'll have some news about maybe some insight on what killer is next. So
exactly. So look for that podcast probably the third or fourth week of March, I'm thinking, because we probably wouldn't have any news about the next killer until then. So it's probably going to be the third or fourth week of March when we're back on the podcast again. So stay tuned for that, and it should be another fun podcast. We'll talk about some killers, and it'll be perfect because we'll hopefully be talking about the new killer as well. So we'll talk about the new killer and then talk about killer tactics.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait for that. It's going to be great.
But real quick, our news at the top of the show, we're going to have our next State of Decay podcast on Saturday. So stay tuned for that. Next stream is probably going to be on Sunday. We're doing one today, but obviously when you hear this, it's going to already be past because this is being recorded on Tuesday and it's releasing on a Wednesday. So stay tuned for a possible Sunday stream. Not guaranteed, but I'm going to try and get one done. And then, as I said at the top of the show as well, there's not going to be as many Wednesday podcasts from now until March 16th because March 16th is the 1-year anniversary of the podcast. So I'm going to be trying to do my best to better the podcast, open up a Patreon, possibly better the stream, and get some, sub emotes, things like that. So I'm going to be trying to get some things done to better the podcast and the stream and the whole experience overall. So because of that, I'm going to be spending more time that I would normally be spending doing Wednesday podcasts, and there will be less Wednesday podcasts. So you're going to have this one, probably one more on Crackdown 3. I think it's going to be a fun game to try out and do a podcast about. So I will do a podcast on Crackdown 3 when that comes out. And beyond that, there might be one more, but possibly not. So you can look forward to a Crackdown 3 podcast at some point. And beyond that, there will always be a State of Decay podcast on Saturday and maybe one other Wednesday podcast. But that's pretty much what we have for today. So ACC, if people want to contact you,
definitely. If you guys are fans of Mixer, come and check me out at ACC_. I will not be streaming for the next week or so because I am getting finally the setup I've been waiting for forever. I'm waiting for that PC to come in. We're going to get a whole new look, whole new feel, a bunch of new gadgets. You can definitely check me out on my Twitter, ACC Streams. Check me out. I got my YouTube channel. You can also check that also at ACC Streams. I will be around. I'll definitely keep up to date. Super excited for this new setup, new look. Thank you. Shout out to all the viewers that my community that really took some love into me and really supported me and have helped me better my stream. I'm grateful to all of you. Thank you so much. And that is it.
Yeah, definitely check out his stream, guys. He plays a lot of awesome games that I think listeners of this podcast would enjoy. You stream some State of Decay 2. You stream Dead by Daylight. You stream Telltale games, which I love watching those as well. So definitely a lot of cool games that I think a lot of people would enjoy. Sea of Thieves as well, I think you just recently got into, which I do podcasts about Sea of Thieves as well. So a lot of games that listeners of the podcast would definitely enjoy watching. So
yeah, just a quick note too on the Sea of Thieves. I totally forgot, and I apologize. If you're looking for a copy of Sea of Thieves, I am doing a draw. So all you got to do is head onto my Mixer, hit that follow button, get to that link. If you have an Xbox account, you give me your gamer tag and what country you're in. So if you do win, I can give you the right digital code for you that you need. And on top of that, if you don't have Xbox, no worries. Hit me on Twitter, give me your tag, PC, whatever it may be, and your country, and I will enter you to draw to win a copy of Sea of Thieves.
Awesome. So definitely get interested in that. Sea of Thieves is a great game, and they're going to be coming out with more content. They're going to keep content coming. And the best thing about Sea of Thieves is once you have the game, all the content they release is free forever. So any DLC they release ever is going to be free. So that's the nice thing about Sea of Thieves. Once you own the game, you basically own any future DLC, which that's awesome. So definitely, get out there and enter that contest. But in terms of me, if you want to contact me, you can contact me via email, theblaisexperience@gmail.com. You can contact me via Twitter or Xbox at BlaiseXPerience, capital BLAISE, capital XPerience. You can also contact me on YouTube if you'd like. I'm a little bit slower at responding to YouTube, though, so if you contact me in YouTube comments, just know that I only check YouTube comments, once or twice a week, maybe. Discord is a great way to get a hold of me. Discord I check every day, so that's probably one of the fastest ways to get a hold of me. And I do have a Facebook group set up. I didn't do too much with it yet. Basically, I just post the podcast there, but if you want to join that, it's welcome for you to join. And in terms of listening to the podcast, you can listen to it on YouTube, on Facebook, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Radio Public, Blueberry, Podbean, basically any podcast directory possible, it's going to be there, except for iHeartRadio. So if you're an iHeartRadio listener, I apologize, it's not on there, but anywhere else you want to listen to it, it will be there. And also, if you join my Discord, I have direct links to it as well. So if you don't want to use the app at all, that's fine. Just jump in my Discord. I have a direct link. You can download it, so you can just literally download the podcast directly. So all those links get released in my Discord. And if you use iTunes, I definitely appreciate anyone leaving a review. Those reviews help the podcast grow, and they help more people find out about the podcast. So definitely appreciate anyone leaving a review on the podcast on iTunes. Unfortunately, most directories, they don't allow reviews, but iTunes does, so that one definitely helps. But thank you, everyone, for jumping in the podcast. We really appreciate you listening. ACC, thank you for jumping in here again. Really appreciate you.
Love being here as always, man. Super fun to do this.
And we will see you guys again in March. So, stay playing some DVD. We'll be back in March to talk more and hopefully have some more news about the next killer, possibly. So we'll see what the Behavior Interactive actually announces about it. So stay tuned, everyone. But as always, thank you for listening to BlaiseXPerience.